Hello and welcome back to another episode of Words of the Wise. I'm Jess and I'm here with Chief Lill with the U.S. Lewis University Police Department in Illinois. She's over 20 years in law enforcement. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we're excited to have you here. Before we get started, if I ask the officers who work for you to describe your leadership style, what would they say?
Well, depends on who you're asking. I would say my style is I'm not the only leader in the police department. So I always reference myself as a sharer. I am not one to hoard all of the work and the responsibility. So when we just actually hired a new sergeant and a new police officer, and that's a couple of things that I've said to them, like, I'm not the one running this department, we're all running the department. So that's, I don't know if there's actual type of leadership that you would call that, but that's what I believe, that we all have to take a piece of ownership to for our police department, and we all need to be a part of running it and being a part of it. So everybody actually has that true buy-in of wanting to be here and wanting to, represent us in the proper way.
Well, there's a couple of things there too. It's like the delegation is a really hard thing to do as a leader, I think. Just can be hard. But then to be able to give people a choice too. Like you said, you want to get that buy-in, so choice gives them that option.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, you sit and you have one-on-ones with everyone in your department, and you find out exactly how much do they want to be a part of this department. We have some young people who are civilians that are just using this as a stepping stone to get out there, but they're very eager to learn. So, we try to do like training, in-house trainings with them to give them some experience and knowledge there. And then we have a lot of retirees that come and they work for us. And then we have some that are kind of decided that a bigger municipality wasn't their forte, and they came to us because we're a little bit smaller and, university campus. And it's always a great conversation to say, how much do you want to have ownership in the police department? Obviously, you can always come work your 8 hours, do a great job, be a great officer, sergeant, but how much do you want to be a part of the community in the police department? And I don't judge anyone who doesn't want to take on the extra stuff, but I would say most of our officers so far have always wanted to take on some extra duties. They get excited about taking on extra things, because I'm not one to micromanage and stand over your shoulder. And if I give it to you, I always say, I'm not going to hold your hand. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to expect you to do it. And like, once in a while, follow up with them. But when I give it to you, I'm giving it to you to, run with it.
And tell us, you weren't always the leader. So tell us how you got into this career. What got like, was this something you've always wanted to do?
Always wanted to do. Yeah. Since I was 5 years old, always wanted to be in law enforcement, grew up with law enforcement in the family. So I started my law enforcement career out as a civilian position, working at Elmhurst Police Department as one of their community service officers, where I learned probably most of my information working there. I was like a sponge. I was young and I just wanted to learn everything about law enforcement. And they sent me to training and they let me just collaborate in a lot of things within that department, and that just helped me when I went on to be a sworn officer. Like I was already like 10 steps ahead, like the experience, they thought I was an officer somewhere else because they just molded me and they helped me, and they, and working there showed me like it's just as important to be a civilian in a police department because of the things that you do there. That's a part of your law enforcement background that makes you and molds you and helps you grow into what you are. So, that took me into the sworn position. And then when Lewis started their police department, I was like, I would love to do that because I like the education component of being involved in students' lives. Because when you're on the street, you always like think you're making a difference. And I think you are, but you don't see it as much. But when you're working at a university, you actually get to see it firsthand, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Can you give an example of that? Just like, or one example where you've seen a
Oh
difference.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a couple. So I had one student that was struggling with like a drug addiction. He was struggling in a lot of ways. He was smoking a lot of weed. He wasn't doing really well. And I would go knock on his door and be like, hey, what's going on? And just check up on him and whatnot, and just, make sure that he's doing what he's supposed to do. And the biggest thing is when you see him graduate, it's like he did it. But it's even bigger when they call you and they'll make comments like I gave him a challenge coin. I go, when you're struggling, I want you to look at the challenge coin, remember your goals, write down your goals, and you got to focus on make them small, then make them big. And when you get a phone call 2, 3 years after they graduate saying, I thought about committing suicide, but then I remember you told me I had to write down my goals. And I looked at the challenge coin and I remembered I had goals. And it's like, but it's like, moving or, young ladies here who struggled in like a stalking case or something. And, we sit and we talk and we go through the report and stuff and they'll call, or write a letter and say, I just want you to know that you taught me to be stronger and, to fight for myself. So I never saw that on the street so much, but you see it more here. And it's like, wow, I really, they heard me, they really listened. So it's really cool.
And it's a different time too with social media and, just the suicides and the different things that are happening on campus. It makes it more challenging
Yeah.
sometimes. And just, especially if you don't, it goes back to knowing, like, if you don't know your purpose, and a
Yeah.
lot of people enter college and they don't know. And I was one of them. I wasn't exactly sure what path I wanted to go down. Started in like I was like, want to be a journalist, and
Yep.
then got into sports marketing and was here and there. And, it can be hard if you don't know what that purpose is. So I feel like it's a gift that you knew at 5 years old that you wanted
Yeah.
to be,
It,
you
it,
know.
it was. And, it was one of those where your mom keeps looking at you going, oh, she'll change your mind. Oh, she'll change your mind.
Mhm. Yeah.
Until I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's those few people that just they know from such a young age, and it's so amazing to watch them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty, it definitely shapes your life when you know what you want to do at a young age, because you
Mhm.
take steps towards that even younger, knowing like, I can't get in trouble. I don't want anything on my record. I want to behave. So it definitely molds you in a certain direction.
Yes. Yeah. Well, when you look back on your career, like what are some of those experiences that have shaped you?
Well, I think it's the leaders in my life that I have. And one big one was the chief at Elmhurst when I was there, John Milner. He was a huge shape. I watched him in how he conducted that police department, and he never came across like a micromanager. Like you're allowed to walk into his office and give him an idea, and then he would let you run with it. It was kind of like that's where I learned that. Like if you want it, I'm going to give it to you, but I'm not going to hold your hand. It's going to be like on you. And I learned that from him, and I think that was huge. Knowing that you could walk into a chief's office and give an idea and present it, and he's like, type it up, let me see it, run with it. I think that really put me on that path of that type of thing. And then I had an uncle who was in law enforcement in DEA, Jim Abermatis, and just watching his discipline, and the way he conducted himself, growing up, going out, visiting him wherever he was at, that really molded me into what I wanted to be and how.
I think the mentors we have in our lives are so important.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm sure. And do you have an open door policy then with your?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a chain of command, but I always tell them like, you can always come to my office and talk, or if you have an idea, you can always come in and talk. So that's one thing all of our supervisors have is an open door policy. You have your own supervisor, but sometimes you might not feel comfortable going to that supervisor for whatever reason. And we don't want to think that them to feel that they can't go to anyone. So we always make that very, out there that if you don't feel comfortable going to your supervisor for whatever that reason, that topic might be, there's a deputy chief, there's my office, but yeah, open door policy, I think is super important.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily they get it wrong. I think a lot of times when supervisors are first promoted, they're not giving proper training either. Like, we go through a field training when get out of the police academy and we go in. But when you become a supervisor, I feel like there is little to no training to get them prepared to be that leader in that role. And our first line supervisors are some of the most important people out there. They're having that one-on-one communication with the officers on a daily basis, not the chiefs and deputy chiefs and even like the commanders. We tend to sometimes lose sight in our little office constantly, doing administrative stuff, but those first line supervisors need that support and that leadership training
Mhm.
that I feel that we do a little bit of a bad job in that area. So I would hate to say they do it wrong. I feel like they could use some guidance. You know what I mean? I think
Yes, yeah.
it's a learning thing. I think sometimes some might be overzealous and maybe over disciplined, and some might be, I just was with you, and you're my partner, and I'm going to be a little lenient. But they have to find that perfect balance. Like you don't have to be super strict, but you can't be lenient. You gotta your supervisor, at work and out of work. That's a different story. But I think we could do a better job at helping them be supervisors.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. It's like when you're starting new at anything, you're going to
Mhm.
make mistakes. There's going to be things, and those will just help you learn. You'll learn from them. So, with that said, that though, the training, like what training would you think would be more helpful to have them as they enter into the position?
I feel like leadership guidance is super huge. Like
Mm-hmm.
having some well, there's every police department has different kind of paperwork, right? And when you become a supervisor, then you're in charge of certain paperwork. A lot of times you're just expected to know how to do it. I think obviously those type of trainings are super important. Having a senior supervisor, or even like if you're a sergeant and if you have a lieutenant or a commander, even a commander coming down, having a conversation with that sergeant once in a while of, let's talk about your leadership. How are things going? That one-on-one is huge. When you get promoted and you're just like kind of forgotten about, it's kind of like okay, but they remember you when you mess up. So we need to stop that, and we need to do more like proactive leadership training, either sign them up for classes through the mobile training units or have that one-on-one leadership. That kind of training is kind of priceless too. You sit and suggest a book, or talk about what worked for you, or talk about what kind of leader do they want to be, and then check in with them. I mean, that type of stuff goes a really long way. They don't feel like they're forgotten about or only talked to when they mess up.
Right. Yeah. Do you have any like rewards and plays or anything that you do to celebrate their good when something good happens?
Well, I mean, we do positive write-ups. We have the challenge coin that, when you do something exceptional. I never want to I watch when I do that though, because
Okay.
sometimes because they do so many great things. So
Right.
you don't want to overkill, like doing your job is a great thing. So
Right.
um like you still got to do your job, and you're expected to do it well, and you're expected to be a great leader. But when they go above and beyond, then yeah, we do write-ups, and we celebrate them, and it might be a challenge coin or something like that. But we try to, make sure they know how much we appreciate them.
It's reminding me of like, how they've been saying in like young sports, like everyone gets a trophy. Like you don't want to do it too much because then it's like,
Right. When they really do something that should be acknowledged, it's like, oh, great, another write up. Oh, great. So
yeah. And then it's like, at what point does it not even? It's like, oh, I got another one. Like it's not, it loses its purpose and value.
yeah, I think it's always good to acknowledge when they do a good job, vocally, and be like, hey, great job on this. Like I had an officer, my grad assistant, and one of my campus safety officers create a training hazing, you know,
Mm.
uh, video for me. And I was like, holy crap, that is awesome. You guys did amazing. And that recognition is, letting them know, like, I wasn't expecting it to be so great. I was like, wow, this is really great. So I think you have to remember to vocally just sometimes say great job,
Right.
that was a great job, and that goes a long way. I mean, it goes further than people realize, to be just acknowledged.
Yeah. And then you've identified a challenge many leaders do quietly struggle with. Some employees interpret accountability as being like personally targeted. You'd mentioned that.
Yes. And I don't know if it's a generational gap, right? I'm a Gen X, and we grew up a little bit different, a little bit more like, if because I said so type of situation. I find the younger generations coming up need an explanation. Our generation never got explanations. It was like, you're doing it like this, and that's it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. The younger generation seems like they need more of, you're doing it this way because, or you didn't handle this situation properly because. And if you don't do that because in a certain tone, then it's like, I'm being targeted. And that's not the case. It's like, everyone is different, right? Everyone has different personalities. And it's the supervisor's responsibility, a sergeant, a lieutenant, even a commander, even if a deputy chief comes down or a chief. If you're not doing something right or you're messing up on the street, you shouldn't want to know that. That could be a safety concern for you or for the community in which you're serving. You shouldn't take that personal. And that's a huge thing. It's like, it's not a personal thing against you. It's professional. Professionally, you're messing up. And professionally, it's my job to help you not mess up again. And I think that's the problem. This like targeting or, personal attack is nothing to do with you personally. So I think there's a struggle there, in trying to learn the new communication of all the different type of personalities that, everyone likes to be talked to differently. So learning that it could be a struggle, but then at the same time, then the supervisors are being questioned by, their higher ups, like this person came in and complained on you. It's like, well, I'm trying to help. I'm doing my job. Should I not do my job? So it's that kind of vicious circle, like, and it's got to stop somehow. Like we got to be able to tell those young people when they mess up, that's our job to keep them safe and help them and train them. And if we can't do that, then what's going to happen to them out in the street. So that's got to be figured out some way.
Yeah. And it's taken me years to kind of figure this out too, because it's like, oh, I messed up, or like, you'll be hard on yourself. But I've realized the older I've gotten is if someone's trying to tell me a better way to do something, it shows that they care to me. Like they care about me and they want me to do better and to grow.
Exactly. And honestly, my deputy chief, I expect him to hold me accountable. Like if I'm doing something, it's like, hey, I don't think we should have done it that way or whatever. I need that. Like, all chiefs need that. They need someone to be able to tell them that they could do it a different way or it's just the wrong way. I mean, we're human too. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. So we need that too. And we're not going to take it personal, like, oh, I'm the chief. No, I'm like, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. That's a really good idea.
Have you read the book, Thanks for the Feedback?
No, I haven't.
You may like it because it talks all about that is like when someone's giving you feedback, they want to see you do well. It's almost if someone's not giving you the feedback, then it's like, well, what am I like? Why aren't they giving me feedback? I don't.
And then if you're messing up, you think you're doing it right and you're
Right.
gonna
And you're
messing up, right?
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it talks about that and having that mindset of they're not picking on me. They want me to do well.
Yeah. I have to look at the book.
Yeah. And I just take what you want, leave what you don't. Not all feedback is always necessary, but in your line of work, it's necessary probably most of the time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's just like getting that thicker skin and being able to understand that it's coming from a place of care.
Yeah. And I sometimes worry is if you can't take that constructive criticism within the department that's trying to help you, when you're on the street, how are you going to handle the people who are just, talking to you vulgarly and just, threatening you? Like, are you going to be able to handle that? If you can't handle just constructive criticism of a boss coming up saying, hey, we got to do better, or hey, you didn't do this right, or whatever it might be, I get worried that are they going to be resilient enough and thick skinned enough to be able to go out there and cope with that and handle that? Because it really sucks going out there and hear people yell and scream at you, just vile things all the time. But unfortunately, we got to go out there and we can't be offended and we can't act like we're offended. So that sometimes worries me. If you can't take constructive criticism from a supervisor who's trying to help you be safe or trying to help you, how's that going to look on the street for you? It's going to be even more difficult.
Yeah. To take it from, and then you're just like trying to like compartmentalize and like realize that the person on the street doesn't even know you at all.
Right.
Like
right.
they have no, like they're going through something in their own,
absolutely,
in their own mind. So understanding that. So when someone hears, I guess I'll use the term corrective feedback. And like, what do you wish was going through and we've kind of talked about it, but what do you wish was going through their mind instead of like,
I wish they would take it in. Like, I feel like sometimes it's kind of going in one ear and out the other. Like they're listening and they're not really listening to the words that you're saying. They're just listening and they're thinking about what their answer is going to be, but they're really not listening to what you're saying. And I wish they would really listen to what's being said instead of either the tone that's being said in, or taking it personal, like, oh, I messed up, or, they're attacking me. But just listen, just like take a second, take a seat, and just literally listen to the words that are being said to you, that, you know, you didn't have your vest on right, or, this is a better way to do your gun bell, or whatever it might be, or you were on this call, you were standing too close to the person, always keep space. But instead of hearing you did something wrong is what's going through their head, and now they're trying to think of the rebuttal, like, how am I going to rebuttal this, how am I going to, defend myself? It's not about defending yourself. It's about taking that in and learning from it, and maybe ask a question like, well, how would I do it better? Like, was it that bad? Can we talk about that? Like, take that as a moment to learn maybe some more stuff, instead of taking it as, I got to defend myself. I need to defend myself. You don't need to defend yourself. We're here for you.
Yeah.
That's why we're telling you this. We're here for you.
This is going to be my last point on this topic, but there are those people that are easily coachable. You'll tell them something, they'll take it in. And then there's the ones that are more
Yeah.
challenging.
Yes.
Have you had an example of that? Like where you're like, okay, they were here and now they've like like maybe you see them in a leadership position or something else. Like you really were able to bring them up.
Um, we had someone come work for us. He failed out at an FTO at another police department. And the things that he failed out, like, I mean, he was amazing. Like, I knew I wasn't going to keep him because he was a younger guy. He had great ambition. And he just needed a little help in, like, getting his report writing done a little bit quicker, a little bit more detailed, and that type of thing. But he was that sponge, like, whatever that constructive criticism that came in, he took it. And I mean, he is out there working. I'm pretty positive right now with one of the, like, the DEA task force now, and like he's been in the papers and he's gotten awards, and you're just like, oh, I knew you were going to do amazing, like.
Yeah.
But he was a sponge, like,
Mhm.
he never took anything personal, like whatever that correction was, he was like, oh, okay, thank you, all right, well, how can I do this better this way? Like, he just soaked
Yeah.
it up and soaked it up, and boy, you could see it, like, he ran with it, and I don't take credit for that, it's all on him. Like, he's amazing, and he just loved to learn and wanted to grow, and you could see it in his career.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to have that mindset, like
Yeah.
the sponge.
Yep.
Be a sponge.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then let's talk a little bit about some of the like mindset, morale, and culture that you
So the word morale.
morale. I know you smiled.
So, well, you will hear officers when they start to get disgruntled, they'll blame the leadership for the morale. So this might be a little bit of old school way of thinking, but as a chief, I don't feel that it's my responsibility to keep your morale up. I feel like that's an internal thing. Either you want to do this job and you want to do it well. There's not much I'm going to change about you internally, about if you just hate this job or you hate being here. It's going to be very difficult for me to do anything to change that. What I could do is say, I'm here for you. What do you want to do here? Support you, and be there if you have questions, and, like, help you when you're doing something wrong, or if you have an idea, like, what do you want to do with the idea, help you run with it. I can be here to support you, but I can't make you happy. Like, you are the only person responsible for yourself, to make yourself happy and make yourself want to do the job and want to work. Like, I could give you a pay raise, and then guess what? A few months later, you're going to be upset because you're not getting paid enough. Or I can give you an extra day off, but then you're going to want 2 days off. So I feel like they're all superficial things that people look for, that are superficial. Like anything, you get a brand new car, it breaks down eventually. So I feel like that morale is an internal piece within yourself that I cannot fix unless you want to fix it. But I can, make this a great place to work, where make you a part of this, a great team. I can give you responsibilities if you want it. I can help you where you're struggling. Like, I can be a leader for you, but I can't be your morale boost.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, no one should look for happiness in another person. It all starts from within yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Finding those things that make you happy. And your job is a big part of your day. If you're not happy in your job, you need to think about changing something, or what other ways. And that's where you can come in as a mentor and kind of tell them, like, here are some different ways. Like you said, like you can give them advice and lead them, but
Yeah.
ultimately the happiness will come from within themselves.
Yeah. I always struggle when I hear the morale's down, but they can never tell you why. Like, why is the morale down? So what is it about the morale? And they always use it as like a everybody, well, what is it specifically
Mhm.
about, and it's the superficial things. Like, we're not getting, I'm like, that has nothing to do with morale. That has to do with, superficial things of the pay or time off or whatever. Morale is about you wanting to be here and do the job and loving the job. Do you not want to be here? Then we need to talk about that. That's a whole different thing. So I think people also confuse that terminology and use it wrong when they use it like that, which that's what could probably get frustrating for leaders, because it's like, can't make you want to be here. I can only make a department as good as it can be, and some of it's up to you too.
I'm so glad you mentioned the superficial things, because that's exactly what they are. They're the superficial things. I feel like it comes back to the basics of how are you showing up for yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you eating healthy? Are you getting a good night of sleep? Some of those very basic things that we start
Yeah.
from the day we're born, like getting nutrition, getting sleep, and going back to that, like that's all things that can affect your morale. But again, that starts with you.
Exactly. People don't realize, like,
Mhm.
not getting exercise and
Mhm.
sleep, that all plays a huge, especially in this profession,
Mhm.
you're not getting sleep and you're not eating properly, you're not doing something to de-stress and do exercise or something, that all builds up. And then that's when they start turning around looking for me to fix that. I can't fix that. Like, I can't put you on a treadmill. I can't, you need to do stuff like self-care, like you were just saying, which is huge. And I think more officers need to really pay attention to that for sure.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, you start to feel off. And then I always think back and like, okay, did I sleep well last night? What did I eat? When's the last time I ate? How much water have I drank today? Like, it's usually one of those things. It's like, we've
Yeah,
all heard the term hangry.
yeah, yeah,
It's, you didn't eat the right thing.
yeah. It's the simple things you're shocked. Sometimes the simple things make you extremely happy.
Yes. And then, like, I had a conversation the other day and it was like, do one thing for yourself each day. And it doesn't have to be anything big. Maybe it's just preparing your own meal, like
Yeah,
making it in a fun way, or like just doing something small that makes you feel accomplished. In this day and age, we have so many tools that do things for us.
yeah.
It's like
Oh,
just finish one thing for the day and you just feel that sense of accomplishment, and it can
it's
make
that
your
instant
mood.
gratification that's out there, I think, ruins so many
Mhm.
people. It's hard for them to work towards something, because everything's so instant right away.
Right.
That's just not realistic.
Yeah, it's not at all. Well, what the last question for you is, what are your words of wisdom for the younger generations?
Not to take things personal, take day by day. If you don't love the job, then you need to think about, is this a job for you? Because law enforcement is, I just said job, but it's not a job, it's a career, it's a passion. If it's just a job and a paycheck for you, it might not be the job for you, right? You got to love it, even on the bad days, you got to look forward to it. So you don't take things personal, train, don't stop reading books on leadership, on self, care, which is huge, take care of not only yourself physically, but mentally. Things get on you and they pull you down. So, go out, and I always tell some young people, set up a counselor, now, a law enforcement type of counselor now, and just start talking about, like, even the process of, trying to get hired, because that's frustrating in itself, and have that relationship. So when you get in that job, you have that person to turn to and go to and decompress. I know it's a taboo in law enforcement to say that, but it shouldn't be, because it's super important. So just don't take things personal. Don't let anyone change who you are. Stay true to yourself. Don't become something you think everybody else is or wants you to be. You be you, because you are going to do a fabulous job.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes,
It's been so great to have you here.
thank you.